Okay, I'm going to teach you scrubs how to get good at Xenoverse 2, or rather how to not suck, whatever you want to call it. A lot of videos on a lot of the videos you'll see on YouTube regarding like getting good at Xenoverse or whatnot, they may lead you to these build videos. How to be OP with this character, how to make an OP character, how to make a character with zero weaknesses, how to make a totally broken monster tier character, blah blah blah, whatever the title is. Uh, those videos are all they're garbage. They're garbo. It is the completely wrong way to learn how to play this game. These builds are not they are not OP. They're not overpowered or whatnot. Whatever you want to, whatever title they tack onto it to get you to click them, because they're usually clickbait. If someone makes a video like that, I can almost promise you the build is not actually OP or whatnot. That is because in this game, the way the stats work, it is almost impossible for you to make a bad build. Any character you make with no investment is going to be pretty good. Your attribute points actually account for very little. They're mostly used as icing on the cake. Because if you have a stat that you're really proficient at, it's not really worth investing any more in it. Because yeah, you'll get more out of it, but those are points better spent in patching up a weak area. Like so many people that have a mill sand and who has the highest basic attack rating in the whole game, and your combos do a lot of damage, and they'll just pump more into that basic attack, which is a waste of points if you ask me. Because it's already high. Why do you need to be at even just slightly higher with all those points? Not to mention there are hard and soft caps for your damage output, so you pump points into that stat, you're just throwing away points for no reason. It is a total waste to invest in a set that's already super, super high. So I'd rather, in my case, I'd rather use them instead to patch up weaknesses or to give myself like more stamina or ki. Health, do not bother with health. It is an utter waste of your points. Even with the lowest health stat in a character in the game, I think the Freezer Race, investing your health is such a waste. It is not going to do any more, and it's going to do anything for you. Like say, the difference between a female Saiyan and a female Earthling in health is like maybe 40 points worth of investment. It is so minute and minuscule. It is just a waste, an utter waste of points. Sure, taking more damage is nice, but it is very, very little more that you can take. Like maybe you can take one more unoptimized combo's worth of damage. That's about it. But in the long run, it is usually better to not invest in health. Ki is a pretty good thing to invest in because, more ki, more attacks you can get out there. Stamina, in my case, I found that 7 bars is kind of the magic number. It's not too much, but it's not too little either. Because obviously, if you just stack a bunch of stamina, you're just screwing yourself more when you get your stamina broken, which will happen in this game. It's gonna happen. There's no avoiding it. So 7 for me, which is about 84 points, is a pretty good amount. Basic attack, it depends on your character. For the most part, this game is really basic attack heavy, especially compared to the first game. So investing it is a pretty good idea. But generally, if you're a freeze race for Sin, you don't need to bother, because your stat is already so high anyway. But yeah, basic attack is pretty good to invest in, obviously, for any character, really. And of course, like Super Ki Blast, it depends. On my female Saiyan, for example, I have 0 in health, because it's a pretty useless stat. 84 in stamina, because again, healthy 7 bars. 125 max out basic attack, because their basic attack is kind of low, and it's going to be doing most of the game anyway. So, I get a lot of damage out of it. And then 94 in Strike Super, because it's better to put that in Strike Supers than Ki Blast, because Ki Blast is already really high, and I don't really need it to be any higher. And then I just toss 42 in Max Ki for, a bit more, another bar key, which is always helpful. And that's another thing. Don't worry about QQ bangs and I don't worry about QQ bangs and equipment that much because I play with limitations on. I think that is the way to go because bothering with QQ bangs and equipment is just a whole other headache, and it just, especially Super Souls, it just lets people create some really dumb builds that are just not fun to play against, in my opinion. But that is how I build my character. I would not recommend, again, investing too heavily in a very high stat because you're just throwing away points. Because there are soft and hard caps. Eventually, your character would just start doing less damage for the same amount of points, and eventually they'll just stop doing more damage. Period. You're just throwing away points. That is my first recommendation for getting good at the game. Learn where to invest your points in, and do not invest too heavily in a stat that's already high. Uh, Next step would be practice. Practice, practice, practice. You need to practice your moves. You need to go into training mode. It is there for a reason. Practice, practice, practice. That's what it should be. You should be doing. This is what I do all the time in my spare time. I practice with different moves and I figure out how to combo into them. I figure out what works and what doesn't, and I just practice. That is what you need to do. You need to practice in training mode. Set the eye to guard and break their stamina and practice stamina break combos. Practice all your moves. Get proficient with them. You know, learn how to combo into whatever moves and pick moves that complement your character. You know, I picked, like, say, Flash Strike for my Feeble Saiyan because it's a really easy move to combo into for that character because of their moveset, but for other characters, they may not be so good. I also use, you know, say, like, a Victory Rush because, again, with her combos, it's same female, it's pretty easy to combo into that move, you know, but other characters, it may be more difficult or, just practice. Practice, pick different moves, see what works, you know, and just practice. That is super important to get the game. You need to practice. You can't just put a build together, a supposedly OP or broken build, and just call it a day. No, that's not how the game works. You see these people making these OP broken builds, but you wonder, where are they on the leaderboards? Why don't they have a bunch more subscribers if they're so good? Well, they're not really good. Their videos are kind of just clickbaity, and they don't tell you anything useful. They just say, oh, look at me, I stacked max basic attack and stamina, I'm so good. But then where are they on leaderboards? Nowhere. Because their builds don't do much for them. If you know, a good an OP in quotation build is not going to save you if you're ass at the game. So learn how to not be ass at the game, and you won't have to worry about using an OP build. Because really, OP builds don't exist. It's a lie. No build is truly OP unless you're using like the blatantly broken moves like Absolute Zero and Go Go Gum. Those moves are pretty stupid, but what makes them stupid is that there's no counterplay to the moves like that. The only counterplay to that move is don't get hit by it, so that's not really counterplay. That's what makes those moves broken OP. Moves like Justice Combination and Super Key Explosion, there is counterplay to that. There exists ways around those moves. That's not, doesn't make them broken OP. They're just really good. So learn how to combo into your moves. Use training mode as much as you can, and just learn how to play your character. Don't just go into a match and just press buttons. That's what a lot of people do, and you just can't get away with it. At least not once you start getting above the lower tier players, at least. Another tip is not to get all caught up in the debate about what's OP, what's broken, what's cheap. This game is pretty well balanced compared to Xenoverse 1. It's not saying a whole lot, but still, it's pretty well balanced. There are only a few moves that are still, need to be addressed. Absolute Zero, God Destruction Zanger, Go Go Gum. Those are the only really ones that stick out. If you're talking to people and they're like saying, oh, this move is broken, this move is broken, well, what moves do they generally talk about? Counters, for one. Counters are a big one. In my opinion, counters are not broken or OP. If you get hit by a counter 7 times in a match, I'm sorry, you just need to play less predictably. That is just it. And if people are spamming counters, which you can't really do because they still cost key to use, people are spamming counters and you're still getting hit by them, you need to figure out why you're getting hit by them. It's not because the move is just some magical, amazing technique that just, it doesn't magnetize your button presses to hit them. If they predict you to hit them and you do, well, they predicted you and you take the damage. That's that. But if you force them to use them, or you predict them to use them, you draw them out, you bait them to use them, and they miss, well then, hey, you're in a much better position because you can get a free hit in, and they just wasted some key. So, that's that. Other moves that people may consider cheap that aren't actually cheap are Super Key Explosion and Justice Combination, just to name a couple. I mean, generally anyone will consider something cheap or OP if they lose to it because they have big egos and they can't just accept that they lost. So they gotta blame something. But generally, Super Key Explosion and Justice Combination are kind of the two most common culprits. Anyone who says Justice Combination, first of all, is a broken overpowered move, just stop. Just stop it. It is a strike ultimate, one of the few good strike ultimates, and you can combo into it, and it does pretty good damage. Like, so what? Like, it really does it matter if it's just a combination? Because they could have just used another move. Like, is it really that much of a deal that you got hit by Justice Combination at the end of the combo as opposed to Victory Rush or, like one of the other, like, fast-acting ultimates? Does it really matter? No, you still 8 damage, and, they did nerf it so you can vanish out of it, so, if you get hit by it and you have less than 2 bars, sorry, that's just how the game works, get over it. But Super Key Explosion is one that comes up a lot, and people cite how broken and OP it is, and it does so much damage, but really, if you want to get good damage out of it, you need to actually invest in ki for it. You need to max out your ki, and you have to have high ki less supers to really get a good amount of damage out of it. Because the ki to damage ratio on that move is pretty bad. You have to eat a lot of ki in order to get good damage out of it. And what is its main use? Oh, it's wide area of effect. That's about it. That's all the move has going for it. It is not a high damaging ultimate, like say times 100 Big Bang Kamehameha. It has utility. It has a specific use, to catch people in the area, and that's about it. It's like Mystic Flash. It's meant to hit people behind you, but would you really call that move OP if you use it in the situation it's designed for? Catching people vanishing behind you? I wouldn't say so. People complain about that move too, but if someone is spamming it, then you gotta prepare for that. You gotta expect it. You gotta block after vanishing, and just let them use it. Let them waste their key bars, and just sometimes I've had people actually use it in the middle of a combo, predicting me to vanish, and then I just get a free stamina break. So if someone's spamming it, moves like that, you just gotta learn how to deal with it, because there is a metagame to Xenoverse. A metagame is basically, if you don't know, it's whatever is best people are using. So if someone's using Super Key Explosion because it's for whatever reason considered the best move, then it is in your best interest to learn how to deal with that move. Pick different evasives or different moves, or just predict when they're going to use it and do your best to avoid it. The move is not OP because people consider it like the best, because, well, they actually don't. No one considers that move as the best move. You don't see high-ranking players using that move very often at all. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, it's considered the best move. Well, then you got to learn how to deal with it. That's the metagame works. If people learn how to counter that best move, then people are going to learn how to deal with the counter, and then counter your counter, and so on and so forth. That is the metagame. If the metagame suggests that Super Key Explosion is a bad move, then no one's going to prepare for it. No one's going to expect it. And then when you do get hit by it, it's going to be like, oh, I forgot this move existed, because the metagame wasn't telling me that the move was still, being used by people. That is why the scouter function is so helpful. But anyway, that is just how a metagame works, guys. If someone is using a move, if a lot of people are using a move, then you got to learn how to deal with it. That's just the way it is. That is how the metagame works. It's how the game stays interesting and fun. Pick an evasive like Mac Dash or Armored Boost, or even Spirit Explosion, and you can completely nullify Super Key Explosion. But if they get you when you're less than 2 bars, well, that's sorry. You're getting hit with an ultimate. That's just the way the game works. If you don't manage your stamina and they get, they make you use it all up, and you get hit with an ultimate and you take damage. That's just how the game works. It's all about stamina management. If you vanish, every time you get so much as, someone just touch you even once, then you're not managing your stamina properly, and you deserve to eat an ultimate, whatever. It's your own fault. It is not a move worth complaining about. A move worth complaining about is, absolute zero. But that's a whole other can of worms. Okay, my next step for getting good at Xenoverse is practice. Not necessarily training mode, but actual practice. You need to practice against human opponents. You need to take your character and your build, and you need to go into the wide world of online PvP and test it. You need to practice against live human beings, not just the AI. You cannot go out there and say you have an OP or broken character when all you do is practice it against the AI. Once you have a build you think you are happy with, you take it out and you use it against people and you practice. You see where the weaknesses are. You see where the strengths are. What works, what doesn't. What moves am I not using that much? What moves are not that helpful? And you swap them out and you keep trying and practicing. I've seen so many people who make these build videos. They just throw moves on there, and half the time they admit, oh, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's not good enough. Your moves need to work. And you need to know how to compensate for lag on top of that. Because if you're using a move, and you're supposed to combo into it, and the combo doesn't work online, then you need to change that. You need to compensate for online latency and lag. You cannot just... A lot of people I'll see, when they use like Freeze Erase or male Saiyan characters, They will just do the full combo and it'll drop because those combos don't work online. But why wouldn't they know that if they didn't practice? They just do the combo and it doesn't work, and well, I escape the combo. Because people do not practice. They do not take their characters online against other people, and they just do not, they do not learn from what works and what doesn't. They do not try and improve. They just put a build out there, and that's the build. Good luck. So my next step for how to be good at Xenoverse is learn from the best, or at least learn from people who are really good. There are a number of people on YouTube who are really, really good at the game. Watch their videos and learn from them. I'm not talking about the smaller YouTube, the kind of like the underground Xenoverse, if you want to call that. People who make the OP, broken builds. No, those videos are garbo. They are garbage, trash. Do not watch them. You're filling your head with the wrong ideas about the game. Those kind of videos are basically telling you if you use this move and allocate your sets this way, that is the way, for you to win. That is the key to success. It is not. Your ability to play the game well and to learn from your mistakes and to read your opponent is how you will win at this game. Just saying, oh, this build is OP, use it and you will be successful, is not the way. People like Virgo Durai, Dissidia stuff, Budendorf, just to name a few, the top 3 in my opinion, those guys are really good at the game and they know what they're talking about. They know what they're doing. Watch their combo videos, watch their, their sessions of PvP, and try to learn what is it they're doing that lets them win. I'll give you a hint. It's not just their builds. It is not their raw stats. It is not just the moves they use. It is being able to learn from your mistakes, to read your opponent, and, it is coming off a lot of practice. Like, you think when they do the PvP, they just throw out any old video out there, like, say, I do? No, they pick out the ones where they are fighting seriously and they're fighting well, and they want to show you what is it they're doing. They show you the combos, how they work, how to combo into certain moves. Their videos are the 3 I mentioned. They're some of my favorite YouTubers out there because of the content of their videos. I've learned so much from those 3, and I would highly recommend you check them out. Again, Virgo Durai, Budendorf, and Dissidia stuff. Those are like my top 3 choices for Xenoverse players. Because with their content they put out there, it is really, really helpful and is a lot of good information for anyone looking to get, into the competitive nature of this game. You need to be able to read your opponent. You need to learn the mechanics of the game. That is the key to success. It is not these OP, broken builds, zero weakness build bullshit that you see from so many lower level players. You see these build videos and you gotta wonder, like, oh, this guy, he doesn't have many subscribers, but he makes these OP videos. How come he's not, like, top ranked and has 1 million subscribers? Because he's so awesome at the game. Well, there you go. That person is not actually good at the game. Coming up with these supposed OP build videos is not how to be good at the game. I repeat myself again and again, but it's the truth. It is the stone cold truth. OP builds are not the way. They are absolutely not the way. Alright, my next step, after I've talked about skills and attributes and, just learning from people and how to play the game properly in practice, is optimizing your stamina break combos. This is actually, it's worth its own, its own little note in this video. Stamina break combos are pretty important. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about being able to combo into a stamina break, but rather what you do after the stamina break. If you get a light stamina break, you really can't do much because their stamina comes back pretty fast. So you kind of just got to get a decent combo in there, get some damage, and let them go. A lot of people get, they get they get too hungry, they get too thirsty. They want to get the damage out there, and they overextend themselves, and they could end up putting themselves in a bad position. But for a hard stamina break where you break their guard or you stamina break them when they're below 2 bars, those are the ones you want to optimize for. Those are the ones you want to practice the most. Because like I said before, if I get you between, under 2.5, if I get you under 1.5 bars of health with a hard stamina break, you're dead. It doesn't matter what you do. I know how to combo with my character to the point where if I get you, when you're below a certain amount of health, that's it. You're not coming back. The game is over. I've already won. Unless I mess up horribly and drop the combo, but that's not very likely, and it's not something you should rely on. Oh, I hope he drops the combo so I can make a comeback. No. If I get you below a certain amount of health and a certain amount of key bars, that's game over. Checkmate. I win. And you can do that too. You just need to practice in training mode. Practice, set the AI to guard and then break the guard with a heavy attack. And practice. Just practice how much damage you can get in that short amount of time. And, do you need to use an ultimate after a stamina break, or can you just use your regular old moves? Because with this character, my Saiyan female, I don't need necessarily to hit you with an ultimate to get a bunch of damage out there. I can just combo you for a bit, and then finish off with a regular, key move like Fast Strike, Flash Strike, or Super God Fist, and I won't need to use up my 3 bars. But I've also been able to combo, optimize a character to do the long combo that does a lot of damage, and then end it with an ultimate to get even more damage out. And that's not even taking transformations into consideration. I can pretty much one-shot someone with a hard stamina break at Super Saiyan 3 with just under 2 bars with this character. And it is entirely possible for you to do that too. I'm not even using equipment. I actually have my equipment set to 0 with a really weak QQ bang. So, because I don't use equipment, like I said, I play with limitations. So if you are using equipment, you can do even more damage with your character if you just learn how to optimize your combos. On some characters, I have moves that are specifically for stamina break combos. Like on another character, I have Burning Attack, because I can knock him to the ground, hit him with Burning Attack, do some good damage with that one move, and it'll knock them back up into the air so I can continue comboing them. I also use Emperor's Edge for that very same reason on a different character. So, optimizing your stamina breakouts is huge because this game revolves around your stamina and being able to get a stamina break off in order to get some guaranteed damage off. So you got to go into training mode and you got to practice these combos. That's just what I do in my free time generally. I'll just go into training mode and just practice and practice and practice. I practice with different characters. I practice with different moves. I practice different sequences of attacks, and that is just what I do. When I have some time, I just practice these combos, and it may seem silly for you to be like, oh, why should I practice these? I just can do my ultimate. Well, because you're not getting that much damage out. You stamina break someone and you get a ultimate off. Well, you just got the ultimate off. Okay, fine, but you could be doing so much more damage if you led into a high damaging combo and then capped it off with an ultimate or another move. Especially if you don't use ultimate, because if you don't, you gotta also practice being able to do high damaging combos without any key to back it up. And that's what I've been able to do as well. I need to practice with having all your key and having no key. That is pretty important, because it just increases your efficiency in PvP. If you break some stamina and you have no key, then who cares? You can just combo them for a high amount of damage anyway, and maybe you'll get some key while you're doing that. That's just how it goes. You need to learn how to do these things. You need to practice your combos, you need to practice against people, and you need to practice your stamina break combos. They are just really important keys to be good at Xenoverse. Learning from these lower level players who make these OP builds, supposedly OP builds, and zero weakness builds, you're not going to get very far. I fought so many people who are using the supposed meta moves who just don't know what they're doing. They'll just throw out their moves willy-nilly. They won't think about what they're doing. They just don't know how to play the game. But they have all these supposed OP broken moves. Well, because they just learned the game wrong. They thought the game was all about your stats and your moves, when really that is only a fraction of what it takes to be good at the game. So please, I hope this video, as long as and boring it probably was, I hope it taught you how to be better at the game. I am not necessarily very highly ranked myself, but we all got to start somewhere. I definitely want to keep trying. I'm trying to get there. But right now, the rank system is kind of messed up. If you lose, you only lose like 1 or 5 points. So that kind of takes away the whole road to ranked, the aspect of it being like, a journey to the higher ranks, because now they're all just, you can just grind to get to the higher ranks, so it's kind of, it's lost its appeal to me. But I will still play it, if only because there's a lot of people still playing ranked, and it's easier to get a match that way. But that's another thing. Do not worry about your rank. Do not worry about losing. If you lose, so what? It's not, I'm not saying you can't get upset if you lose to something stupid, but be able to recognize when you lost to something that you could have prevented. Like, oh, if I had just vanished earlier, I could have avoided that ultimate, or I could have avoided that move that totally screwed me over. Or if I had invested a little more stamina or in my damage output, I could have ended the fight before he had a chance to come back. Things like that. Just be able to recognize when it is your fault that you lost, because it usually is. I mean, sometimes lag and whatnot will get in the way, and that is nothing you can really do about that. It is unfortunate. But be able to recognize when you made a mistake and be able to learn from that mistake. Like, do not have an ego, you need to be humble about this. Losing is part of the game. It is going to happen. If you try to present yourself as someone who's good, who someone doesn't lose, sorry, it's a lie. These people who make these videos about them, like, just trashing low-level players, it is not, you're not impressing anybody. We all know you're not very good. Just be honest about it, If you lose, you lose. Who cares? Who actually cares? If you're still good at the game, then you can still have fun. You can still put on a decent show. I don't know. I'm just talking here. So I really hope people learn from this. I know not a lot of people are going to see it, but I hope people learn, just to get better at the game. Stop complaining about things that aren't worth complaining about. Learn how to deal with moves that are giving you trouble. Do not rely on the rhetoric of OP build, broken build, zero weakness. Do not rely on that, because it's not going to get you very far at all. You're eventually going to plateau if you think with that mindset and, just stick with a build like that. You need to be able to change your build, change your moveset, adapt, learn from your mistakes, learn to take a loss, just be humble about it. Please, because I want this game to continue to thrive, and I want to see people get better at it, and I want to get better at it too. And it's just so much more fun when you're challenging someone who actually knows what they're doing, and they don't just complain and send you, mean messages when they lose because they did something stupid and they just don't learn from their mistakes. So I hope you learn something from this, and I hope more people can really take that more competitive, mindset, and not just whine and complain on forums, forever. So thank you for watching. If you watch this long, and goodbye.